What's up, guys? I wanted to talk today a little bit about the subject of game engines. And the reason I want to talk about it is because I see that it's still a common theme amongst, uh, the fan base as something that people cling to and feel like that is a big problem with the NASCAR game development. And a lot of people have bought onto this idea that the Unity game engine is terrible and it has to be changed, and until they change it, the game's always going to be bad, and people want the real engine or whatever other engine. I mean, there's a lot of engines out there, game engines, and it's like this thing that's taken on a life of its own. And I feel like I'm the only person. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I feel like it. It's like I don't really believe that that is an issue. And the reason for that is that, well, there's several reasons, which I want to get into. But before we get into it, we really need to understand what a game engine is and what it does. A game engine is simply software that provides a canvas or a frame, a blueprint on which to build a game. And it provides tools as well, so that all the things you want to do in building this game, the game engine provides a set of tools in order to get the job done. Or whatever your objective is in building the game engine will provide certain tools for which you can use and so on and so forth. Now, yes, there are differences in game engines, and some engines are able to do specific things a little better than the other. But in the big scheme of things, there's this uh, negative um, reputation that the Unity engine has had for some time, and it's because early on there's been some, I guess some games were made with it, and the games weren't really impressive compared to other games, and it for some reason or another people automatically say, hey, it's a Unity game, it's crap. Or also the fact that the Unity engine is free, that automatically leads people to think, well, it must be junk if it's free. Now, I did some research on it, and what I've found from people who actually use the Unity engine, and you could do your own research, you could Google it, and you could, on YouTube, there's a lot of videos about it. But the common theme is that it's a very capable engine, and you just have to know how to use it. And if you're used to using a specific engine and you try using a different one, there's a learning curve, or there may be things that you just haven't figured out yet to get to do the same thing that you did with a different engine. The bottom line is that a game engine is not a magic wand. It's not going to magically make something you're building better by itself. It's a tool, and like I've said this before, but a carpenter doesn't blame his tools. You know, if you know what you're doing and you have imagination, you can build anything if you understand how to use the tools. And the reason we haven't had the type of NASCAR games that we've wanted has nothing to do with the game engine. I firmly believe that. And I know there's people that are like, yeah, but with a better game engine, it'll help you make a better game. That's not necessarily true. The way I see it, these guys have been using this engine and they've built two games with it. And I think if you want to use a different engine at this point, it would require a complete rebuild. And that's going to set them back all the way back to square one, because you got to start over. You got to re-render everything. It's a huge process. And it's better, in my opinion, to build on this. I don't think that this game is so terrible. The framework, I've always said, it's got good bones on it. The problem with this product is that it's bare bones. There's nothing. This is why I always say the term fleshed out, because it's not fleshed out. It's just a skeleton. And that's the biggest problem with these NASCAR games, that we never seem to get a fully fleshed out game that has all the bells and whistles and features that most other sports games have, or that we used to get many years ago in a NASCAR game. And these are simple features. And you always hear people, they want a track map, they want caution replays, and then there's all the stuff I've brought up. So there's no innovation there. None of these features are innovative. They've been around video games forever. So the fact that we're not getting these features has nothing to do with the game engine. And that's what one of the aspects of this argument that I want to point out, that it has nothing to do with the game engine. It's a decision by these developers to leave this stuff out. Whether it's a conscious decision, or an oversight that it just didn't occur to them. I don't think that it's an oversight. I really think, because they're aware of the things we've been asking for. Okay? They do pay attention to what's going on in social media. They do get feedback from people, and they're very well aware of all these things. So they're making a conscious decision to not bother adding these features, which were basic features. I mean, these aren't innovative in any way. So it's a conscious decision by the developer, and it's not the Unity engine. Also, the Unity engine, the latest version, is vastly improved, and it's right on par with these other game engines. So it's a very capable engine. It's the developers, whether they're being told to just stick to do certain things, or they don't have the ability, just mentally. They're just not good artists. They're not good at ideas. And I don't think that's it either. They have shown ability. And I do think that with the last game, they did show a lot of ability. And there's a lot of promise there. In my opinion, it really all falls down on whoever is in charge, or the people in charge of game development. Whoever it is that decides, this is the list of things we want to achieve, the features we want in this game. This is how I want the game to work. This is how I want the career mode to work. These are the things I want in there. Somebody has to make that decision, because the guys who actually sit there and draw the game out, render everything, and do the programming, they don't make those decisions. They're told what to do. So when someone comes to them and say, okay, we're going to add a paint pool, so I want you to structure it like this. I want to be able to do this, 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 and that. So that's what I want. It's your job to make it happen. And if you need something in order to make it happen, you let me know. But that's how it works. There's an hierarchy in game development, just like anything else in life, right? There, you got your general contractor if you're building a house, and he is in charge of the entire project. But he's not the guy who's actually running the plumbing, the electrical, the sheetrock, the framework of the house. He's not the one that's actually making sure everything's up to code. Everyone in that company has a job to do, and they're responsible to making sure that job is done properly and up to code. So video game development is the same way. you have different people on a team who are responsible for certain things. The guy that actually renders the artwork or the cars, the tracks, the environments, it's not the same guy who actually works on the physics, the handling, the AI intelligence, the how the living, breathing aspects of the game work. Those are computations and calculations that somebody comes up with. And it's not the same guy. You got a guy who does the art, and then you got the guy that does the actual X's and O's, okay, and the programming that makes everything run and work. So all of those people have to be guided or directed by somebody. So there's someone who decides what this game is going to look like and what this game is going to, the layout of the game. That's the guy who hasn't been addressing any of these issues. That's the guy that decides, don't worry about a paint booth, just give them this. And let's get this done. And they prioritize everything. So those are the guys most responsible for the reason that we haven't gotten a fully fleshed out NASCAR title that we've all wanted, right? And we've all had aspects of the game that we feel fall short, aren't good enough, or pretty much the biggest issue I think is more of the things that are missing. The stuff that's in the game, yes, it needs some polish. There's certain things that need to work better. I've talked about all that stuff. So it falls on the lap of someone who's in charge of telling these guys what to do. The guy that's in charge of deciding what this game will have. The guy who has the job that I would love to have, because I truly think I understand what would make a great game. Do I know how to program? Do I know how to make all this stuff happen? No, I'm not a game developer. But I do understand what would make a good game and what these NASCAR games need and what they've been missing. So that's the guy who's really responsible. And the game engines, I'm telling you, it's not the problem. And if you really think it's a good idea to rebuild the game from scratch and start over with a new game engine, I don't know what to tell you. But you're not going to get a 100% fully fleshed out game in the way that you want it the first time. Because that would require minimum of 2 years development. And to make that game come out in a year, it's just not going to happen. It's a lot of work. And it would require a much larger developer with a bigger team of people. And I don't know how big 704 is as far as a developer. But I will say this. They have one game that they work on. That's all they do is NASCAR games. Excuse me. So they don't have a big excuse. I know they're a small developer, but at the same time, they're not making multiple games. All they do is NASCAR. Which is why I said I have big expectations for this third game. And if it falls short, if we still have all this stuff missing, they are completely responsible. A new engine isn't going to make that problem go away. It's the decisions made by the people in charge of what this game is going to end up being. And these decisions are made, obviously, for their financial decisions, because the more stuff you want to put into a game, the more man hours it's going to take, the more resources you have to put into it. And the easiest way to make a profit is not really to spend more and make sure you have a better quality product. Yes, that's better for the consumer, and it would also improve sales, because now people know, hey, this is a great game, I want it. That's the best option, but in terms of finance, it's really not the the easiest way to make money. The easiest way to make money is to give you less and charge you the same. So you're still paying the price of a full game, but you're not getting a the same product you used to get, or the same product that someone else may give you, which is you get more for your money. That's why games now have less content. That's why things that should be basic features are being stripped out of games. And they're being repackaged to you in the form of DLC, so you're paying even more. It's the easy, lazy way of making money. That's the bottom line. So, those of us who speak out in social media and we try to get the message across, we're trying to tell 704, give us what we're asking for, and we'll buy your games, we'll support you. But we're sick and tired of these games that are missing so many features we used to have. Now, I gave these guys a lot of credit with the last game, and the reason I did was because it was a big step from the first game. But at the same time, they only started. Most of the praise was really for things we should have had to begin with. We should have never went without this stuff. Adding the Xfinity and trucks, big fucking deal. We used to get this stuff many years ago. And the game still sounds like a game that was developed 15 years ago. I mean, what's the excuse for that? That you can't improve the sound? Can't you get a high quality audio guy, expert, to go and record some authentic NASCAR sounds? Don't you realize how important sound is to a NASCAR game? And those are the things that upset people. Those are the things that piss most people off. It's all of these basic features. There's very little that I've actually brought up that's innovative. You know, I brought up face scanning that NBA 2K does and now NBA Live, which is great. You could scan your face with your cell phone and download it, and it renders you into the game. That's fucking awesome. I love that stuff. But you got to invest a little more to get this stuff to happen. That's somewhat innovative. And the other thing is the automatic crew chief that I've always talked about. That these NASCAR games desperately need a way to connect people, not just the casual guys, but even guys who are hardcore NASCAR fans like myself. I don't fully understand how to set up a race car. Now, yes, I could do what I've done in the past and go online and get setups from people, but it's not the same. There's a disconnect there. And if you want these games to feel deeper and more immersive, you have to make the rest of the game, not just the actual racing. You have to make that more interesting and immersive and get people where they can figure out their own setup. Not necessarily you, but like if you had a crew chief that guided you through your career mode. Like every really good sports game has somebody that guides you through the career mode. And it would be awesome and a natural fit for your crew chief to be a part of your whole career and guide you through setups. And you could actually spend time in practice and relay to him what the car is doing. And he can make adjustments to the car based on your complaints. And I've talked about this, and you know, this would be fucking awesome. I haven't spent 1 second in practice. I don't even bother qualifying because the game's too fucking easy anyway. It doesn't matter if you start in the back. But if you made that stuff more immersive, and then you don't really have to be an expert in setting up a car because you got the crew chief to guide you and help you through it, and at the same time you learn. And that's the core of a great game, when you can do stuff like that. But these NASCAR games, they just leave you to your own devices and you're just stuck on your own. Or you go online and you just get a setup from someone, but that doesn't feel immersive. That disconnects you from the game. It's just like a shortcut. it's almost like a cheat. And those things are really important in a NASCAR game. You got to get people involved in all the other aspects, not just race and then get out and race the next race. There's so much more that happens in the world of NASCAR, and it should be part of your career. You should be negotiating contracts with sponsors. There should be commercial endorsements. There should be other aspects of team building. Maybe build your own team, race team, and signing team crew members and building your own race team. And how about a franchise mode or something or a crew chief mode where you can actually play crew chief and have that as a mode? And wouldn't that be interesting? There's so much you can do with these games, and it would make the career mode deeper and more immersive. But that, you see how I come up with that? That's imagination. And that's what's missing from these games. The people in charge of making the decisions on what the final product will be either don't have the imagination, or they're being told by the people higher up, keep this game bare bones because we don't want to spend more money on it. And that's all there is to it. So the bottom line is, this is not about a game engine, guys. It really isn't. And you can build a lot with the Unity engine. Another aspect I'm going to talk about is, what is a NASCAR game as compared to other games? And this is another point I want to make when it comes to this topic of game engines. A NASCAR game is a linear game. It's very static. That means that nothing really happens. Like, you're at the racetrack. The track is a drawn out part of a map. It's not even a map. It's just a small section. It's a track. When you compare that to other games, open world games like, let's say, Grand Theft Auto, okay, or all these other, there's a dozen open world games out there that are awesome, but you have a massive map, and in this map there are so many things that happen in real time. You have AI, you have people, animals. In Grand Theft Auto, you have traffic. You have dynamic weather. The weather changes. There's so much happening. It's a living, breathing world, and that requires thousands of things happening at once. And you can go to, it's a massive map, and you could go anywhere and any time on that map, and there's something happening. That requires a lot into making that happen. A NASCAR game is the opposite. It's a static environment. It's almost completely dead. You have a track, and the only thing that's constantly changing, where there's constant programming that's telling the AI what to do, is the AI. So you got 39 cars on the track with you, and that's it. It's you and 39 AI cars. The crowd isn't doing anything. The weather isn't changing. You don't see rolling clouds moving in the sky. You don't see a blimp flying over or planes. You don't see the crowd, you don't see drunks in the stands in a fist fight or anything like that. It doesn't require that. So the game is static. Even when you pit, I would love to see the entire pit full of each team and their crew, even behind the wall, and all the pit signs. None of that's in the game. When you pit during a race, the pit is entirely empty and blank. So you couldn't get a more static environment. So why would you worry so much about the game engine when this can be done on the most basic engines? The engine is not the problem, guys. It really isn't. And these guys have been working with this engine for 2 years now. and they're familiar with it. So they just need to be given the green light. Add all this other stuff. Let's get this done. Things we used to get 15 years ago on inferior consoles. Could you imagine? So this Unity engine can't achieve what used to be achieved on a PS3 or even a PS2? Is that what you're saying? That it's the game engine? When we used to get all these features, you had a track map. You had all this other stuff. You had fully immersive stat compilation. Broken down year by year career totals. You had trophy pages. You had some presentation pre-race, going down the race lineup during the warm-up lap, and they would go through each car in the field. Even post-race, you had a couple of guys shoving each other after the race. I remember all that stuff. That's part of presentation. None of that happens here. And that stuff happened 15 years ago. So, stop with the game engine stuff. It's not the game engine. So, the things we want that this game is missing are old stuff. None of that stuff is innovative. We used to get that on far inferior consoles. And that's what I'm trying to convey to people. You become so fixated on game engines, and it's not the problem. It's these people. They just gotta implement this stuff, and it's basic stuff. Like I said, the only things I've really talked about that are innovative is the face scan and the automatic crew chief, which I think would really elevate these NASCAR games. And you would spend time in practice. It would be fun. You go out and run a bunch of laps, and then you come in to the garage, and then you're interacting with the crew chief, and then you could see the map of the track, and then you could go to certain sections of the track and say, okay, turn 1 is tight, exit of turn 2 is loose, and then he could talk to you and say, okay, we're gonna do a spring change here in the left rear, and we're going to put 200-pound lower spring on the right front, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. That would be awesome. And you would spend time in practice, and you'd be improving the car. And it would be a learning experience as well, and it's just immersive. That's innovative, but you can't get that done. And this is what pisses me off about these NASCAR games that we've been getting since 2011, man. There's just so many basic things missing and no sense of innovation. And every year we're begging for stuff that should never have been taken out of the game to begin with. Paint booths should never be a question. We should be customizing our own fire suits at this point. There should be so many things that I've talked about in the game. And no, we're still arguing about caution replays, track maps, and a full paint booth and stuff like that. And this is what pisses me off. But the game engine isn't what's keeping all that from happening. It's the decisions by the developers. So I hope that these guys at some point get the message. And I know that some of you guys are tired of hearing me talk about the same stuff over and over, but sometimes you just got to keep at it. You know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and you got to keep complaining, and you got to keep sending these guys that message and saying, man, we expect these things. And shame on you for not putting this stuff in the game. We used to get all this stuff before. And now you're buying these games every year, and you're not getting what you used to get. So that's all I'm going to say. What do you guys think? Am I really wrong about this game engine thing? I just think people are way off on that. And I really don't think it'd be a good idea to just rebuild the entire game at this point. When they did make, in all fairness, they made some progress last year. You know? Yeah, the game is still bare bones, and I'm still demanding a lot more from these guys, but they've made progress and they've shown that they are capable. Even the caution system, which was completely fucked, they were able to patch it after the game came out. You know, they still need to work on all these things, but they kind of fixed it. So starting from scratch with a new game engine just so people could feel like, oh, this must be a better game, it's not going to magically fix everything. These are these problems stem from conscious decisions made by whoever's in charge of development. And I don't know if it's Sean Wilson or someone else or a combination of people, but where's Ed Martin? He was in charge of development at EA when we were getting the early Thunder games that had all this stuff. How is it that the same guy that was part of that could be a part of Eutechnics and these guys, and it's still a problem? It has to be financial. These reasons have to be just, you know what, we're not going to invest the extra money. In order for us to make more profit, we're just going to not give these guys the basics. That has to be it. But you guys at 704, man, I'm telling you now, if this next game isn't a fully fleshed out game in the way that most people want, you're going to lose out, because I'm telling you, I'm not buying any more games from you, and I think a lot of people are just going to walk away. You can't just give us updated rosters and a couple of touches here and there. And the tracks are already built. 90% of the assets in game are already built. So there's no excuse. I hope we hear something from these guys soon. It's still early. I mean, I don't think we heard anything last year until the end of March. So there's still time. But I am getting concerned, and I would like to at least get an idea from these guys what they're working on. Like they did last year, when they talked about, hey, we're adding the other two series and a bunch of tracks. And that did excite a lot of people, including myself. And that's the kind of thing I want to hear this year. I want them to come out and say, guys, you're going to get a fully fleshed out paint booth. You're going to get, caution replays. You're going to get your track map. The game's going to be a lot more immersive. We're working on presentation. There's going to be a lot more to this game, and we're working on that. That's what I want to hear. So hopefully, maybe within the next month or so, maybe they come out and give us some information. But the game engine is not the problem. That's my opinion. I look forward to your opinion. So what do you guys think? And until next time.